This is DW News, live from Berlin. Britain's King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer. Buckingham Palace says the monarch is receiving treatment and will step back from public duties. Also coming up, the US Secretary of State returns to the Middle East for crisis talks on Gaza. Antony Blinken wants to secure an extended pause in the fighting between Israel and Hamas. And turmoil in Senegal's parliament as opposition lawmakers protest against the postponement of the presidential election. I'm Raheela Mahomed. Welcome to the programme. Britain's King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer less than 18 months since he ascended to the throne. Buckingham Palace issued a statement saying the disease was discovered during a hospital procedure last week. It says the 75-year-old has started treatment and is positive about his prognosis.
The announcement of King Charles' cancer diagnosis has surprised many, as only last week he was seen smiling and waving at crowds while leaving the hospital in London, following a procedure on an enlarged prostate. Buckingham Palace says the cancer was discovered during the King's treatment, but it has not revealed the form of the disease. It says the decision to go public was made to prevent speculation and to raise cancer awareness. Londoners and tourists are united in wishing the King a speedy recovery.
I think he does a pretty wonderful job, to be honest. I'm a big fan. And that feels like something a family would want to go through in private anyway, but having been a person in the public eye for so long, I'm sure he is aware of how much that will connect him to other people, other families who go through that.
Well, I'm very sad to hear this, very sorry to hear, and I pray that he will recover, the treatment.
That is really sad news for all the world, not only for the citizens of United Kingdom. We pray for him.
I will say to him, like I said to my mum and my brother, be strong.
Buckingham Palace says the King is stepping back from his public duties while he undergoes treatment. But he will continue in his constitutional role as head of state, dealing with state business and official paperwork.
DW's Charlotte Chelsom-Pill has more from London.
His doctors, we've heard from the palace, have recommended, as I say, that he step back from these public-facing duties. But they have also stressed that he will continue to fill his constitutional roles. He will, for example, be keeping up to date with the enormous amount of paperwork that he has to deal with. He will be taking part in private meetings. But when it comes to those public events, what you can expect to see is other key leading members of the royal family stepping in his place, notably with the absence of the Princess of Wales. She has also been undergoing medical treatment, and she is currently out of action at the moment too. So it has been a pretty serious, pretty concerning start to the year for the royal family.
And how has many people in the UK been reacting to this news so far?
Well, as you would expect, there's been a huge outpouring of support for the King. Looking first at members of his own family, we are hearing reports that the Duke of Sussex, Harry, who we know lives in the United States, we know also that the relationship between Prince Harry and the King has been strained. But we are hearing reports that he will come to the UK to visit his father, that they have been in conversation as well. There's been an outpouring of support from political leaders here. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak wishing His Majesty a speedy recovery, saying that he hopes and expects that he'll be back in his role quickly. Across the world as well, world leaders sending their messages of support to the King. You've had Joe Biden, for example, earlier this evening expressing his concern and saying that he hoped to speak to him soon. So as you can expect there, an outpouring of support also from the British public here too. Many very taken by the fact that that King Charles has chosen to be so transparent about this issue. That really is a change from the past, from the way that previous monarchs have done this. King Charles here choosing to reveal this diagnosis.
So DW's Charlotte Chelson-Pill reporting for us from London. Thank you. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has begun his tour of the Middle East. He's pushing for a truce between Israel and Hamas, a group considered a terrorist organization by multiple countries. Blinken started his trip in Saudi Arabia and will also travel to Egypt, Qatar, Israel and the West Bank. The diplomatic push comes as Israel is considering an assault on Rafah, a city in southern Gaza, where many of the displaced are seeking shelter.
No let-up in Israel's ground operations in Gaza. The Israeli military released footage of its offensive in the Strip as top US and French diplomats met with regional leaders to push for a truce. Israel's pressing on with its campaign after threatening a ground assault on Rafah. The UN has dubbed Rafah the pressure cooker of despair. The southern city near Gaza's border with Egypt now hosts more than half of Gaza's population, displaced since the start of the war.
We were forcefully displaced from Gaza. They followed us to Khan Yunis. We came to Rafah, and they want to follow us again. Where do we go?
Israel's biggest backer, the US, is hoping to broker a deal that could see a pause in the fighting. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken landed in Saudi Arabia on a regional visit that Palestinians hope will secure a truce before the assault on Rafah. International pressure on Israel is mounting. France's foreign minister called for an immediate ceasefire and a political solution for Gaza.
We must prepare the future and support the Palestinian Authority, which must take on a new form and redeploy in the Gaza Strip as soon as possible. I repeat, Gaza is Palestinian land.
But it's unclear if those plans will be realized. Israel's prime minister is set on continuing the war until Hamas is destroyed.
This is the essence of our policy, total victory over Hamas. Total victory is essential because it guarantees Israel's security. Total victory is the only way in which we can secure the further historic peace agreements that await us.
Israel's defense minister says the military would push on until it has full reign over Gaza, including Rafah.
Well, Dalia Dasakaye is a senior fellow at the UCLA Berkeley Center for International Relations. We asked her whether Netanyahu's comments would undermine Blinken's diplomatic mission.
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu's comments are certainly unhelpful. It is going to be impossible to get a deal if he continues to take this kind of stance. Of course, he's taking a lot of these stances for domestic audiences. It's very clear that he has, a lot of pressure from his right flank not to give in, not to have any pause in this war. The Israeli population is mixed. More than half of the population really focused on getting the hostages out as a priority. But a large part of the population is still very supportive of continuing this campaign until Hamas is significantly degraded and cannot threaten Israel again. So it's a real bind, but there is an urgency given the humanitarian catastrophe. It's highest on the U.S. agenda, highest on the regional agenda, that is very much backing a ceasefire as soon as possible.